afternoon, everyone. It's Alyssa Corum and Justin Nielsen here reporting to you live from our newsroom in Los Angeles. Hope you had a great 3-day weekend, those of you who got Monday off. On today's show, though, we are going to be taking a look at AMD, Intel, and a chip ETF. So all about chips today as the trade war continues to be a headwind for the overall market because we saw a downside reversal today. The NASDAQ finishing down about 0.4%. The S&P and Dow got hit a little harder, down 8 and 9/10 respectively, after starting the day in positive territory. So not a great sign here as we continue to struggle.
Right, and as I was looking at Ed Carson's futures column, before the open and yesterday, he was commenting on a tweet from Trump, and I was like thinking, okay, this could be bad. More a long-term issue that we could be
not ready for a deal yet.
Yes, exactly. We could be struggling a little bit more here, and I was very surprised that futures were looking great open. The NASDAQ was up 0.7%, very quickly at the open, and it just lost all of that. So this is still kind of that correction territory. It's bearish action when you start positive, end weak, and that's what we're seeing. So this is kind of, again, that whole time period where you want to be very cautious, very defensive, and not be very aggressive. This is a curvy road. This is not a straightaway.
Exactly, and we are still holding above the 200-day line, so that's still the area to watch as we continue to stay defensive.
Yeah, so we've got the 200-day moving average line on the NASDAQ. You can see that black line on the chart there. That also corresponds roughly to the 7,500 level on the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500, that is about 2,800, the level that seems to be pretty important. And we closed right around that level, so we're getting close to those previous support areas that were resistance are now support. If we lose those, that could be another leg down.
All right, well, we will be keeping an eye on those technical levels for you, but let's turn to a few individual stocks. A bright spot today was AMD, which gained almost 10% in heavy volume as it announced new products in Taiwan. We have a new central processing unit, graphical processing units. So this chip maker is looking pretty good right now compared to a lot of the weakness that we're seeing.
Yeah, that face you made says it all. The chip makers have shown a lot of weakness lately, and again, a lot of that is because of the trade war. But you have to look at where the strength is, and AMD was showing a lot of strength. Granted, that was because of news, products that they have going on, and that really kind of captured the imagination of what could be possible for the company. And they have competitors, Intel for their desktop processing units, and that's one of the things they announced, the Zen 2, which is a third generation for one of their processing units. But they are also competitors with NVIDIA and their gaming chips, the graphical processing units that need to do all those calculations, so gamers have no, they can watch their games with those heavy-duty graphics that are beautiful looking nowadays in real time. So the competitors have something to worry about. Both Intel and NVIDIA were down today, and AMD, as you mentioned, was a 10% gain.
Exactly, so potentially a good name for the watch list here as it approaches a buy point.
Yes. Now, of course, one of the things to, the caveat there is the earnings are a little spotty on this one, earnings and revenues growth, but that can happen with chip makers. Their revenue tends to be spotty and very cyclical, but the bigger issue right now, of course, is you've got a market correction, and that's always a time where we're more defensive.
Well, you mentioned Intel, so let's go ahead and take a look at that chart. Those shares finished the day down over 2%, continuing to slide here. And back in February, March, it looked like things were kind of turning around for Intel, but we've just seen it really fall off the table here.
Yeah, and this is kind of a tale of two charts. You see how AMD really hasn't given up any ground at its 50-day moving average, whereas Intel here sliced through its 50-day moving average, gapped down below it, heavy volume, and that's a sell signal. So it just goes to show you that when you get a sell signal, you have to react to that. You have to do something. Don't just sit there waiting, oh, maybe it'll come back, hoping. This is a great example of it just got worse from there. And so, when it gapped down below 55, now it's trading below 45. Do you really want to let something go down another 20% on you?
That's right. Or even sit through it hoping for the day that it will eventually come back. And that's a very uncertain thing.
Right, and you might be saying, okay, look, it's Intel. It's not going anywhere. It's a strong company. And that might be true, but on the short term, how much pain are you willing to sit through when you could just be sitting on the sidelines and maybe waiting for another opportunity?
That's right. Well, let's give everyone an update on the VanEck Vector Semiconductor ETF. The ticker there is SMH, and it's not looking too good either. You know, it's mirroring Intel in a way, which I'm sure is a big component of this ETF.
It's an 8% weight, and Intel is an 8% weight in SMH, and so that's part of why you're seeing, if you look at the chart here, you can see, that looks a little familiar, that big slice below the 50-day moving average, and something that was looking strong and now is very weak looking below the 200-day, below that 100 level. So 8% weight of Intel in this ETF. Intel has a very heavy weight. It's one of the top 10 in the NASDAQ composite. It is a very heavy component in the Dow Jones Industrial. So when Intel is showing weakness, you're going to see that trickle into a lot of other indexes. And so that's just something to be aware of. And again, the semiconductors, whereas AMD that we talked about has maybe some spotty earnings and revenue growth. It's number 7 in its group. But if you look at some of the other leaders in its group, they're the ones that are getting hit even harder. And you really have to look at what the growth names are doing, what the leaders are doing. In fact, I was just calculating the leaderboard. That was up actually 0.4% as of 5 minutes before the close. So growth did not get hit too hard, at least a lot of the names that we have on the leaderboard. So
as we're moving forward, that's something that we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on.
Right, exactly. Again, not a time to be aggressive, but so far growth, a lot of growth names are holding up okay, so that is a positive. And if we can continue to hold these support levels, that could be good.
All right, so we'll continue to watch the support levels, look for stocks to add to our watch list.
Yes.
Very important as well. Any final thoughts?
No, that's. I think that closes it out. The watch list is important. You got to stay engaged. Look at those stocks that are strong relative strength, holding up well. The ones that are maybe holding their 50-day moving averages, like AMD.
Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to head to investors.com for more perspective on the market and individual stocks. And in the meantime, you can check out our content on social media, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, to stay up to date on all the latest. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.